Simply to start with, can you understand me? Yes, no, maybe, yes. If my English is so Austrian English, I ask the interpreter for the English translation, please. Perhaps this helps a little bit. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to be part of your community here. And shortly you will see why I'm so glad to speak to people out in the area of language, text, and not always design and graphics. By the way, how many designers are among us? 1.5? 0.1? Who dares to call himself? Yes, thank you very much. At least I'm not alone, thank you. I have given a promise to Katre, and she said, you will can have the slot after lunch if you promise that the audience does not fall asleep. So, could you please promise not to fall asleep? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, who may promise not to fall asleep the first 45 minutes? Okay, I will come back to that. Thank you. What we would like to talk is about the espresso, which is a good time after lunch to enjoy an espresso. And of course, the espresso is just nothing else than a metaphor for the principles of information design. Before we start with the espresso, it's another promise you have to give to me. Please don't expect something new. Everything you will hear now, you know already. There will be nothing exciting, nothing outstanding. So just don't expect too much, okay? You promise again? Don't blame me afterwards. Okay, good. And thanks to the courage and how brave Katre was to invite me for this presentation. Thank you. This won't be a lecture. It will be a kind of an inspiration for you, especially on this borderline between graphics, design, and language. And as sad as it is, and so few designers here show the interest of designers in language, I'm glad that at least some of you have a lot of interest in design. So of course we could start teaching designers, please make yourself more familiar with the issue of language. But perhaps it's always the other way around easier. So I'm glad you're here and listen 45 minutes, don't fall asleep, to design things. To understand the concept of espresso, you know the concept of the Italian espresso, right? Yes? Maybe? Please speak now. Yes? Italian espresso. Okay. It's important to understand the concept of the Italian espresso. It's not about the coffee. It's about Italian espresso. Who of you has been in Italy yet? Okay, that's good. So you know, you already have seen it. The Italian espresso is not the cafe americano. You agree? Yeah? This is the Italian espresso, this is the cafe americano. This is the amount of beans in the americano, this is the amount of beans in the Italian espresso. Okay? Clear. It's also not about the concept of the Viennese melange, because also this is a different concept. It means if you have, difficult to understand the concept of American coffee, but it's having something in your hand and walking around for half an hour. That may be a concept. The concept of the Viennese melange would be to sit down in a cafe, enjoy some cakes and pastries, and talk a lot, but minimum half an hour, if not 2 hours. That's a different concept of coffee. We will stick to the idea of the espresso, the Italian espresso. The Italian espresso is about 10 seconds or 15 seconds, maybe more, but definitely not a minute. It will be in a rush, it will be 10 times a day, maybe. It will be in a short conversation, it will be very, very quick. In case of emergency, if there's the fire coming up, we don't have the time for a cafe americano. Oh, shall we go this way? No, let's go this way. Oh, it's getting hot behind. It's too long. It's too slow. If we have the concept of a Viennese melange in the way of, in case of emergency, then again the concept fails, because we can't decide which one is the more beautiful way to escape. No. It has to be clear, it has to be strict, and everyone has to know where to go, and the quicker the better. That's the concept of the Italian espresso. In basics, these are the 4 elements of the Italian espresso. It has to be strong, it has to be short, very simple to be made, and of course very, very sweet. No coffee without sugar. Let's switch to strong. It's about the content. There's a very bad thing. The very bad thing is gigo. You know gigo? Garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the best beans and not the best content available, it's difficult to make a smart text or go for a smart communication. If the content sucks, it has no chance to be a good communication. You have to assure and to really confirm that the content you have available is fantastic. The content not only has to be in the sense of quality, but also in the sense of relevance. And if you don't have to say something, don't say something. There's no way to communicate and no need to that if there's no relevance and no importance, and no one benefits out of this communication. Strong coffee, a strong espresso, a strong communication needs excellent content, but also excellent methods. But perhaps a little bit on that later on. Media. There's not a lot of water wasted for Italian espresso. I think it's some milliliters you may afford for that. So also in media and sustainability aspects, the espresso is very, very nice and very ecological. It's also about the communication. Don't be boring, because you have to fill 50 pages, and after the second page you already a little bit panic what to do with the remaining 48 pages. Please stay short. The shorter the better. Some famous people, and I don't know whether it was Wittgenstein or Kant or Einstein, said, I don't have the time to write you a short letter. Please keep this in mind and compare yourself with Einstein. Go for the short way. It's a lot of effort. You need a lot of points, but you please the audience, the short it will be. For instance, like this could be easily said like that, and you won't miss anything. The nice thing about you can blah, always say like blah. Or if you would be nice, it could be kind of blah, like this. So it's always the same blah, but it's presented in a different tonality. And this is a kind of typography can support you. And outside you see a fantastic exhibition, how to play and how to design with typography. Simple. There's always this kind little misunderstanding that simple means stupid. Simplicity does not mean stupidity. If we design in a very simple way, or in a very simple way of communication, we need a lot of intelligence to do that. For instance, do you know this? Who's this? Who figured out? Thank you very much. Clear, huh? One view. You see edifix in between? Yes, of course. Yeah? Now you know the system. You know this one? Donald Duck. Yes. And now, expert level. You know that one? The Simpsons, yes. Who has seen Edifix? Okay, 1, 2. Who has seen The Simpsons? A lot of more. Basically, we haven't seen The Simpsons. We just have seen a shape of color, a shape of content, a shape of context, and some rules of proximity and other things in the completeness of the range that we notice are the Simpsons. But to decode that these are the Simpsons needs a lot of intelligence and a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. You agree? So we only can present in a very simple way if we know to whom we present, in which context, and are we familiar with the stories. You might have a lot of Estonian languages or fairy tales where you can play the same, but even the people in Latvia or Lithuania won't be able to decode it because they don't know the context, how you grow up and what kind of stories you have been told. But to communicate in a very simple way, this is a very smart way to do it. In the sense of simplicity, it's not only about the simplicity in the presentation, it's also about the simplicity in the handling of information. Perhaps you know this little mocha machine which you just put on the fire and it works for you. You don't need any kind of electricity or any ugly machine with it works on the stove. Simplicity means it's easy to handle, it's easy to do it locally, it's easily to be adaptable. Otherwise, it's too complicated, and too complicated systems won't be applied and won't be implemented. Simplicity also means that we talk about universal design. And in the sense of universal design, it's again about accessibility. Universal design is not only for the minority in our community. Universal design is for everybody. We are handicapped in the way like the lady in the wheelchair. If we just have broken our legs and we want to get in the conference room or somewhere else, or to the shop or in the cafe and enjoy the espresso. Visual impairment is not always about the blind people. In fact, most of us are visually impaired, but we don't confess that we are visually impaired. We say yes, 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 have no idea what has been presented, but we are too shy to blame ourselves to be not as young as we want to be. Around 25% of the population is in a kind of visually impaired. And the older we get, the more visually impaired the society gets. We have to also communicate to this kind of people. And also, of course, just to avoid a misunderstanding, blindness has a total different requirement in application and implementation than visual impairment. For us information designers, visual impairment is exciting because if you don't have the full range of attention, but just this small, then you have to be so focused and so nice and so precise. That's really a challenge for information designers. Can you still follow me? Yes? We are so quiet. Who already fall asleep? Thank you for not showing up. Thank you. The next point about simplicity and also about universal design is a very nice story of Taiwan. In Japan and in Taiwan, the young girls wear glasses, but without the glass, so just the frame, because it's so cool to have something on her nose. Can you imagine that all of us have this wheelchair, because the wheelchair is so cool that we want to go with the wheelchair, huh? Or this white packaging on our legs. But this is a very nice example that I think there's a generation like me, when we grew up, we had been the snail with the glasses, we had been blamed officially. Now it's chic, cool, and very trendy to have glasses even without glass. Nice, very nice development. This is a kind of universal design which works for everybody. Sweet. It was nice to hear already in the morning that the advocate said, we're talking about beautiful legal texts. It's nice that beautiful is not taboo in this community, and it's a reconfirmation that only the sweet things have a chance to have an impact. If the things are not sweet and beautiful, nobody would care about. And there is this, you know this man? Yes. Have you seen this interview with BBC, spring 2013? There was a nice atmosphere, 2 big chairs, on the one he himself, on the other one a young lady from BBC. And after some nice she asked him, could you imagine that your successor could be a woman? And he said, of course, as long as it's a nice one. And she said, what did you mean by nice one? And he said, beautiful, simple, beautiful. And she said, why? And he said, because if she's ugly, nobody would listen to her. It's true. It's not about beautiful. It's about nice. It's about care about yourself, care about the whole presentation. And it's not a taboo that beautiful or aesthetics is a factor in human mankind. Only the things we realize, we pay attention, most of the things are beautiful. Beauty gets our attention, and if we attend to the things, then we will deal with the content. I don't know whether the limbic system is regarded to be serious enough, but there's something on that. It's easy to listen or to pay attention to something which attracts also all the senses, not only the eyes, but also the ears and all 5, 6, 7 senses we have. So sweetness and beauty is a factor in communication. By the way, everyone and everything is beauty. And even Angela Merkel, since the last weekend, we see even she is beauty. So, fine. Structure. Have you ever seen Who is Really? Isn't that great? I mean, technicians among us would say, please go for the right hand and look for your place where you are and settle down as it is. No, it's not the way. But this is a very nice presentation of what kind of people, what kind of stuff, what kind of colors we have when we go on the beach or enjoy a late summer Sunday afternoon at the lake. It gives a structure, how many umbrellas we have, how many people there, how many small little ones, what's the fashion of your trousers, only 2 in red, a lot of blue, how many big animals we carry with us when we go there, and how many space we need, which is quite impressive, how many space. It also could be easy to investigate the parking slot like this. Oops, sorry. To have an idea what kind of size of cars we have, what is the color of the week. And now you have seen already, just for training at home tonight, this can you do for yourself. But of course, designing, or when we talk about plain language or clarity, we always have to de-design, deconstruct the content we have. Only in the deconstruction we have an idea about the content, about the available materials, the available shapes, and what might be relevant, what might be available in high numbers, and what we must care about. For instance, you can lose an apple, but don't lose the spoon. Easy to see over here. Efficiency. All the things of the Espresso basically is made for efficiency. And this is, again, another example of Taipei. This is not the rush hour on Thursday early evening. This is the rush hour at Saturday, 10 o'clock in the night. And if you see this huge amount of people, then you know that we need a very clear, very strong espresso in our wayfinding system. Otherwise, it won't work. If too many people lose their way, if too many people block the whole masses, you can't deliver the public services. So also, if we come back to reading or the understanding communication, it's not only a matter of effectiveness, it's also a matter of efficiency. The quicker we can communicate, the quicker and the closer we are to implementation. And what we need to do is, and most of the things are always explained by efficiency. If London has a fantastic system for pedestrians, not using the tube but going by foot, then not because going by foot is so healthy, because otherwise the tube is just filled. And during Christmas times, when everyone has a bag in addition with him, it's absolutely not possible to handle these capacities. So it's always about efficiency, whether it's the emergency signs, whether it's understanding text, whether it's the orientation in a restaurant, whether it's in a stadium, whether it's how do I get the tickets, how do I find my place, how do I understand legal regulations. It's always about efficiency. And the nice thing about efficiency is we always can calculate. If you miss the plane on the airport, although you have been in time, this causes a lot of costs for all the participating partners. If the wayfinding system is fine and you won't miss your plane, that all these partners save a lot of money. So if we have clear communication, it's not only about the clear communication, it's also about the very efficient communication. So, of course, and I'm very thankful for Karin also in the morning presenting the IC Clear course about the tools. And this is just, again, the motivation to you. Please don't only stick to the words and the sentences you have. Make use of everything which is available. And now we are here only in visual communication. Please keep a lot of white space for the audience. The Japanese say the white space on a blank sheet of paper or even on a written sheet of paper means listening to the audience. If you don't have white spaces on the page, it means simply propaganda, yeah? Bom, 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 bom. Huh? You need some white space for your own thoughts, for your own listening as the reader. Please go for a structure. When we recognize places and we have understood what the content on special places is, it's easier for us to navigate, to orientate, and to understand what it is. If you dare to use color, and it's not really dangerous, please use colors in a smart and simple way, but also in a very consistent way. Otherwise, you will more disappoint and disorientate than you will carry out clarity. If you're not that brave to play with patterns and a lot of graphics, please play with typography. We have so many different fonts. We have so many different ways of each font. We have the possibility to mix white space with headlines, with sub-headlines. We have the italic font. We have something else. We have different font sizes. Please use this to give a good understanding, a good navigation of that. And of course, graphs, tabs, pictograms, whatever is available in the big world of graphics in design, make use of it, please. You can avoid redundancy. It's an easy way to see it, very quick to understand, very quick instead reading in a very boom, 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 or you just have a glimpse and you understand the story what you have. Pictures are not decoration. Pictures are essential communication, and it's the fastest way to communicate with pictures. Not arbitrary, not because a nice flower would be nice here. No, it has to fit to the content. It has to fit to the context. It has to add something more. But it's a fantastic way if you have the real right tonality and the right message of the picture, which can confirm your message or also give it a special tonality. And finally, at least for us information designers, it's a mandatory thing. We always keep, of course, the customer, the user, the citizen in mind, which is easily said, but always very difficult to practice. We have to force and discipline ourselves always to have the reader, the audience, those who we are communicating to have them in mind. There's a very nice definition of information design. And the definition of the information design is designing a message and the context in which it is presented and it has to be beneficial for the user. And we always have to care about, is it beneficial or not? If a communication is not beneficial, then we simply can skip it. There's no way to do it. There's another very nice definition of design, and design means any activities to change an existing situation into a preferred situation. And it's the same also with all the topics around clear communication. We only communicate because we want to change a situation into another one. If not, either it's art or there's no need to communicate. If there's no intention, it's a blah, 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 blah. If it's really an intention, that we are again in the Espresso way being very short and precise. Is there anyone who is not asleep now? Thank you. 10 minutes to go, then you can fall asleep. Methods. A very brief little step into the methods. It's nothing special again. This is a system which was developed by the British Design Council, and it's nothing else than, again, a method to discipline yourself. Which means whatever we do in the design process, we start with the exploration phase. In the exploration phase, in any project you do, whether it's a design project or something else, but especially in design, first we have to understand the context, which means you open up, you get as many different impressions, inspirations, aspects, dimensions as possible. The second phase in the exploration phase, this was the discovery. The second phase is the definition, which is really hard work. It's again this making a decision what to skip and what to keep, which can drive students crazy for a week because they can't decide on not doing this and this and this and this and this, but only doing that. But that's one of the big skills. If you want to save the world, we have to start anywhere. We can't save the whole world immediately in all the aspects. We have to pick out something, and this is the definition. The first one in the exploration is the discovery. If we want to work on a special topic, if we want to communicate, if we want to change a situation, we have to have a feeling and understanding of the context. If we have this, then we can go for the definition and say, this is the single topic we pick out and we are going to work about. The second phase is the making. And again, in the making, we have an opening phase and a closing phase. In the opening phase, we're looking for the possibilities of what would be great to do, how to communicate this definition or this defined topic in a proper way. What kind of ways there would be to appeal, to seduce, to convince people or someone else to change his habits and the situation. And again, it's the second phase which makes the hard work. It's again the definition and it's the decision on the deliveries. We don't have endless money. We don't have endless time. We don't have endless capacities. We have to reduce our activities on one single or two single activities, and then we can work on. There's this nice English saying, either you do the right things or you do the things right. And it's about doing the things right. You pick out something and then you finish and you do it. So this was the making phase. The big issue among designers is always we get a topic at the very beginning and immediately we have the solution. We haven't understood the complexity, we haven't understood the context, we haven't seen what's possible or not, we just have an idea to do it. No, in between we need the definition, we need again the exploration and discovery, and then again the deliverables we are going to make. And as an information designer, the story doesn't end here. We have to recheck whatever we did, does it have an impact on the intended user? It's part of the first phase of the initial game. We never design something just to design something. A mailing, a newsletter, a poster is not a poster. A poster has to trigger some activity. It has to trigger some activity or attendance or appealing or action, whatever it has. We have to recheck as a designer or as someone who really makes things, whether it has an impact or not. And then we go again in the distillation and say, this was good, this was nice, this worked, this was not as efficient as we thought, and then we go in a redesign phase. It's never about good or bad, or right or wrong. Interesting is what's the consequence and what's the feedback and what's the related behavior. That's the most important thing. So, can you read this? Who knows this silly game? All the others are able to read it. For us designers, I apologize. This is proof of evidence that we don't read, but we look and don't read. It's always a combination of all the experiences we have to understand something in message. It's not about the letters, about the whole context and content. And according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters are in a word. And you can continue like this, the word jumbling phase. So, back to Tallinn. There's something like this, and in a few seconds, all of you will receive a little brochure like that. 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes. Please distribute and disseminate as quick as possible. I can send you. Okay, if it's too bad, you let me know.
Okay, you'd prefer it to stand here?
Yes, since half an hour. Please remember, it's not about right and wrong or good and bad. It's about doing and the making. In this little brochure you have a rough summary of the past half an hour, or a little bit more. This is the one, please keep this as a souvenir in your mind. Whenever you communicate, you think automatically about the Italian espresso. You promise? 2, 3. It's about 200 in this audience. Is there anyone else? Maybe, okay. Please keep this in mind whenever you communicate. Strong, short, simple, and sweet. And in this context, have in mind this nice situation. Early evening at home, and the little boy says, I've heard about something like constitution. The Estonian constitution. What's Estonian constitution in Estonian language? Huh? Okay, you know better than me. If it's an Austrian, what a word. For all those who are not, as me, familiar with the Estonian language, we also put the English text in it. And what you can see inside in this little brochure is the first chapter of your constitution. Once in English and once, I hope you recognize, and I didn't make too many mistakes in the setting in the Estonian language. And what I would like you to do is just pick out single aspects or the whole story of the chapter 1 and try to explain it to the little boy on something like this, a single page. use your pen, your brain, your neighbor to talk to and go for inspiration. Make a drawing of the country, the flag, the map, I don't know what it is. Pick out something, and in the next 25 minutes, please go for a message on that. Is this understandable? Any recheck, please? What does the translator say? Whatever. If you say, I can pack the whole constitution on this page, you make the whole constitution. Yeah? If you say, even the chapter 1 is too much, I just stick on one line or one paragraph of the chapter 1, you only make this. It's, again, not about doing right or wrong. It's about doing and seeing what's the diversity, what's the wisdom, what's the variety of the chapter, and what different ways we have to communicate. Again, for us designers, it's quite easy to accept that that's not only one way to communicate, but there are millions of ways of communicating. And this would be a very nice collection of interesting approaches of you here, expert at Clarity, how to explain a very simple thing, a very basic thing, like the first chapter of the Estonian Constitution. The idea is that with all your drawings, 200 in this little piece, we can make a little nice booklet, which is a very nice documentation and manifest proof of evidence that you have been here and you dealt with clear communication at the example of the Estonian Constitution. If you don't fall asleep and contribute, what we may do is, there's a website, which is our website and not the official one, hi-pe.at. At this page, on the very first page of it, you will find a hint on the conference here, and then you just continue here. If you want to receive a copy of the book once it is printed, you give your email, family name, first name, organization, blah, 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 blah. And if you don't want to draw something, just your text, how explain the first chapter in a very simple text way, or you give some any other comments about this lousy presentation, or you give us a picture of the drawing you made like that, simply by uploading on this page. Was this understandable? Yes? Also for the non-Swedish? Could you please do a little recheck in Estonian language so that I can know that?
Kuidas tundub, kas räägin korra veel eesti keeles üle, mida me tegema hakkame? Või on kõik selge? Tõlge on olemas iseenesest, aga et lihtsalt kontrollime, et kas me saime ühtemoodi aru. Et loeme põhiseaduse esimest peatükki, räägime väikesele poisile, mida see kõik tähendab, aga räägime tähendab seda, et disainime see info ära. Võib joonistada, võib ka kirjutada, igal juhul paneme selle mingisugusesse löövasse vormi. Niimoodi, et ka see väike poiss saaks aru. Ja siis on võimalik, kellel on nüüd arvutid kaasa, võimalik koguneda. Ma arvan, see oleks hea mõte, et tegelikult kaasa ära teha, et laadida need asjad üles ja see väike buklett lõpuks sellest konverentsist koostada. Et äkki võiks koguneda inimeste juurde, kellel on üleslaadimise võimalus, kellel on arvutid kaasas. Näiteks võiks need inimesed tõsta käed üles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aga teeme äkki niimoodi, et disainime ära ja siis me tõstame veel korra, need inimesed tõstavad veel korra käed üles ja siis võiks koguneda nende juurde, et tõesti kõigi meie kunstiteosed saaks ka jäädustatud. Nüüd vist on küll selge. Let's work.
Yes, it also works with your smartphone, of course. Yeah? Just make a picture and puff, it's done. Yeah? If the computer and the smartphone doesn't work, we also have a camera with us, and we can make a quick photo of your masterpiece. Okay.
Nii, et on võimalus ka teha siin fotoga pilt. You said 25 minutes, but I think we should give like 15 or 10 or
5 is enough.
5 is enough, okei. Nii et 5 minutit, olgem kiired ja loomingulised ja siis koguneme inimeste ümber, kes saavad seda üles laadida.
So. Thank you very much for joining this experiment. Perhaps I will show afterwards, after the conference, maybe have 1 minute to show all the pictures, in the quick summary. That will be great. You have the opportunity to upload your ideas, thoughts, comments, feedback, whatever it is, on the website until tomorrow midnight, Friday midnight. And we are going to make a little booklet as a PDF for download. If you want to go for a printed version, then we will offer this on a book-on-demand concept. In that sense, it was very beautiful to see that only within 25 minutes we gathered around, as it seems now, minimum 80 different drawings, conceptions, and ideas about the first chapter of your constitution, which is absolutely great, and thank you very much. And by the way, this is one of a very simple method to call for immediate understanding of a context, of a response, and you can see that within only 25 minutes you can go for a printed book if you want to. So, in that sense, I only can say now it's about, we are more than 80 now already, and plus the photographs, I think we are beyond the 100, and you will see it just at the end of this conference. To close, I only want to say thank you for the pleasure for introducing design to the people of the language, and I hope for much collaboration between the two parties, designing clarity and excellent communication. Thank you very much.
Suur tänu kõnelejale. Thank you. Kui teil on nüüd küsimusi selle kõige kohta, mis see nüüd tähendas, mis sellest saab, ja nüüd on võimalus neid küsida. Ma ütlen ära siis ühe täpsustuse, et kui ma tean, et ühe inimese buklett on praegu veel minu käes, et kui nüüd on keegi, kes andis oma bukleti pildistamiseks, ei ole temane tagasi jõudnud, et tulge julgesti pausi ajal ja nõutke neid tagasi, kui te tahate endale mälestuseks. Et võib olla, et mõned on siin selle kõige käigus kaotsi läinud. Aga küsimusi Martinile? Ma teen siis ise otsa lahti jälle. Ja, aga toome mikrofoni ka kohe. Ja.
Küsimus on järgmine. Mida kõneleja omast seisukohast arvab nüüd seriifi ja sans-seriifide fontide erinevusest, et mida, kus oleks mõistlik kasutada? Sest inimesed ikkagi kipuvad siin aeg-ajalt ikkagi oma eelistusi peale suruma, et nad tahavad, et oleks kindlasti nüüd Times New Roman või oleks kindlasti Arial, aga kuhu siiski need eri tüüpi fondid sobivad ja kuhu nad ei sobi? Marko on minu nimi.
Okay. There's a kind of fundamentalism in discussions among religions, which is nothing compared to the discussions among typographics. And people or typographics they can discuss weeks, years about slab serif or not serif, antique or grotesque or whatever it is. Basically, I only can say there's no general statement on that. We have among 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 different fonts, and every day 1,000 more. Please recheck the readability. Of course, you have seen it with the blah. You have a different tonality about blah, or whatever it may be, and you can express it by the font, of course. Basically, the font has, first, and of course, the font is also a part of the corporate identity. Sometimes there's no other discussions because the font is the font of the state or the font of a department or the font of a company, and then it's a kind of orientation because you know, oh, this is from the state or this is from the government and not from the children's party. So in that sense, there's a lot of research done about readability and a lot of efforts done among the standards institutes, because the standards institute always want to say, oh, only 14 points and only Helvetica or Geneva or whatever it may be. Basically, as a designer, only can say there's no rule. Recheck the readability. Give it to 5 people, 10 people, recheck different conditions for readability, and this gives you the answer. But I think there's also no rule what kind of color, because some colors in some areas are coded red with danger or not. In other cultural regions, it has a total different meaning. It always depends on the context and the content. I know this is a very lousy answer to your question, but I'm afraid it is like it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry to disappoint. It would be great to have this font, but it would be very boring, honestly saying. Okay?
Thank you. Aitäh. Kas on veel küsimusi? Arvamusi, mõtteid, mis see nüüd oli, mis me siin kõik koos tegime?
Mul on üks küsimus.
Ja palun.
Maris Jõks on mu nimi, olen üks korraldajaid ja töötan ise keeletoimetajana. Mul on selline küsimus, et öeldakse, et üks pilt ütleb rohkem kui 1000 sõna, 100 korda korrutatud tõde. Aga kas võib olla ka nii, kas te olete näinud sellist olukorda, et on info kujutatud kuidagi pildina, graafiliselt, sellega on tohutult vaeva nähtud, aga tegelikult võiks ikkagi parem olla tekst ja lihtsalt seletada sõnadega see sama asi ära?
Oh, lousy question. Yes. If the image or the pictogram is not clear enough, and clear enough does not mean only in the situation where it is, but because, for instance, like an airport, we always have the discussion, is this the washing room or is this the praying room? Because we have different connotations of different countries, of different cultures in the interpretation. And I think in that sense, a reconfirmation of this is always necessary. There's also whenever is a kind of misinterpretation, I mean, if there's space enough, then both would be, of course, the best. Ugly, or the point is that in most of the cases we are limited in space. If you handle like an airport 1, 2, 3 languages simultaneously, you are happy that you can rely also or can be assisted by a pictogram. On the other hand, of course, there's no pictogram for a name, for instance, as long as you haven't been trained for 10 years that you know that an Apple is not a vegetarian shop but a computer company. It takes a long time to learn also the pictograms. So I think if you come up, I mean, in Vienna we now have this kiss and ride parking spaces. Are you familiar with a kiss and ride parking space? Most of Viennese people are not. It doesn't mean that you have to kiss your neighbor, but if you drop someone off, you can have these 2 minutes to get out of the car, get the luggage, kiss and say goodbye, and then leave again without being fined. And I think in all these senses, when there's something new and you have time, space and resources, then of course language helps. It doesn't only help, it's really crucial at the very beginning. And it seems that that in really emergency cases like the stop sign on the street, we don't dare to skip the top. So it's still on design, and there must be some reason for that, yes. So it's always the collaboration between graphics and text. I think so. I hope so. I have no idea.
Thank you. Aitäh. Veel küsimusi? Mõtteid? Ettepanekuid? Mul on üks küsimus.
Oh, not a lousy one.
I hope so. Probably not for you. I'll ask the question in Estonian, so that was the agreement, so you need the translation.
Okay, sorry.
Mida te arvate meie tänase konverentsi plakatist? Kui te ei ole seda veel näinud, siis see on siin ees, selle puldi peale kleebitud. Lousy one?
Where's the escape way? No, this is very simple. I have to use the microphone. I hope to have it in mind. Basically, no, okay. Basically.
So you can look.
It is, yes. It depends, what should it be? First of all, I like the basic white design of the initial layout, and which looks very exclusive, very nice, very high level. This is a little bit too much color for my taste. But now we're talking about taste, not about right or wrong. It's just about the taste. I could imagine that this conference deserves more white space around. And it might have been a good investment to go for one poster just for the announcing and one poster just to show the program of it. This is something in between. It's the program and the poster. So I think it works. It wouldn't work in the design community. Because it's the daily business, yeah. But they don't read it, yeah. They have no idea about the text of what it is. They just look at it, a little bit crowded, yeah, buff, yeah. But it's not about the content. But I think this is one of the examples where white space is very essential. Give it importance and give it space so that it really can show its impact and its importance. And in that sense, I would say we are back to the question of media. One, it is really dedicated to the program, which means to have more space also in between here, so it's easier to read and easier to see the differences. And the other thing is, of course, to give more importance for the logo. A question about redundancy is, of course, if I have it in the logo, is there any need to have it a second time here? If the logo is so bad that I can't read, then it's good to have it here. The logo is done nicely, so there's no need for any repetition over there. Yeah? So we are very lazy in information design. We are afraid of redundancy, so the less you can put on this shy little piece of paper, the better it is for the content. Yeah. And
thank you. Now you can run.
Okay, thank you very much.
Kas on veel küsimusi? If it's done, then it's done. Ja pärast kõiki neid jutte Espressost ma arvan, et on võimatu mitte teha praegu ühte kohvipausi. Nii et sealsamas, kus me enne einestasime, servitatakse kohvi ja kohtume siin samas umbes poole tunni pärast kell 15:45. Aitäh! Thank you! Small something for you.
Thank you very much.